It's time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
And this is The Oil Stream. No Dustin Nielsen today. Matt Iwanyk in for a Dusty live in the Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen studio here on the West End. Popeye's, they're excited to have their sweet and spicy wings, crispy breaded wings with spicy ghost pepper seasoning, tossed with a sweet chili sauce, and come in 6 or 12 pieces. You have to get these right away, by the way, because this ends on Sunday. You've got today, you've got tomorrow, and you've got Sunday to try the sweet and spicy wings from Popeye's. So go get those right after the Oil Stream with myself and Tom Gazzola, who joins me from his place downtown, overlooking downtown Edmonton. He was at the rink for the Oilers. Can you hear me, by the way?
I hear you. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you. And let me.
Hello.
Oh, there's nothing you could do with that one, Trev. I think I might have him muted there. So
do you have me muted, boys?
Oh, you had it muted.
I had it muted?
Oh, I don't know. Did you
Can
do
you hear
anything,
me now?
Trev? I can hear you. We didn't do anything.
Thank you.
So I don't. We'll just say YouTube Trev fixed it. YouTube Trev fixed it. So and you, Trev, you can walk by. You don't have to worry about it. He's
a quick learner, that YouTube Trev. I love how you said overlooking downtown.
Yes.
I overlook 102nd.
It's downtown.
Yeah. But
it's downtown. It's not like the street you're looking at doesn't overlook a part of downtown.
No, technically you're right. And I love that you went in with the liner right off the hop. And that was a good move.
Well, thank you.
Delicious. It's that time of day.
It is. It's lunchtime for a lot of people.
That's right.
And what better place to go than Popeye's?
Go to Popeye's. Get that sweet and spicy chicken.
How are you doing on this Friday?
Good.
How was the rink? How was the mood at the rink?
Very, very good. Like it was pleasant, all things considered. After yesterday, Jay Woodcroft did a great job of kind of protecting his team, if you will. There's no practice. He was the only one who spoke. He took the bullet, so to speak, and it wasn't like anything that was thrown at him yesterday was that harsh, and he handled it fine. He's savvy when it comes to dealing with the media. So today was a work day, as they like to call them. They worked on some system stuff. They worked on some battle drills, things that need to be addressed going into tomorrow night's tilt with the Canucks if they want to atone for what we witnessed on Wednesday night. But overall, I mean, talking to Draisaitl, who had a pretty good quote, and Jay Woodcroft, they seem to be in good spirits. And you know what? You do have to pick yourself up. You got to dust yourself off, no matter how bad it is, and then go out there the next game and make it happen. So overall, the vibe was fine there. Jack Michaels and I got into it a little bit. We got into
what?
It a little bit. He didn't understand. He didn't know that he didn't know what the Heritage Classic jersey was, and I was like, 1952 Mercury's, bro. And I was busy doing stuff. And then
how can you get into it over what the jersey is from, though?
I'll explain. So I was I'm trying to look at the lines. I'm trying to see what's going on. And he's like, Tom, what are those jerseys? Why do they have brown pants? And I was like, are you kidding me right now? Right now. And I clearly needling me. And I'm like, 1952 Mercury's Heritage Classic jerseys. And then he kept asking questions. And I was like, can you settle down? And then he's like, well, I'm not afraid to ask questions, unlike some of us here in the media when we don't know something. And then I was like, oh, so you know everything that, you can admit that you don't know something stupid like that. And he's like, typical 1260. You've changed, man. And then it became a thing.
1260 is not around, Jack.
Yeah, I know. You don't know Jack.
He also, his first on-air interview in the city of Edmonton as the play-by-play voice of your Edmonton Oilers. Not you, Tom, Edmonton's.
Yeah, no,
Oilers,
I know. No,
was on 1260.
Right.
It wasn't on Ched.
Right.
It was on with Bob Stauffer, Oilers Lunch, I was working it. We had Jack on because he was hired as play-by-play voice. So careful. Remember where you came from, Jack.
Well, the ironic thing is, he's a know-it-all, and for him to say he's the first one to admit that he doesn't know it all is hilarious. And that's kind of what I was getting at with him. And of course, he didn't comprehend that, and he turned it against me like an only child does.
There's a lot to get to from practice today of the Edmonton Oilers, but a roster move that the Oilers have just announced in the last couple of minutes. Defenseman Markus Niemelainen has been placed on waivers, so clearly he's now recovered from his injury, and now they could send him down to Bakersfield. Do you think, I'm not sure if you've seen this as it happened in the last couple of minutes. What do you think this could lead to roster-wise for the Oilers? Because, they were running shorthanded on Wednesday. This should open up things for them to be able to bring up another body.
Yeah. It's okay. So they, Niemelainen obviously ready to play, and he's fit. And, they place him on waivers. He was on the ice this morning skating with Desharnais. So if anybody wants to know where he literally is right now, he's getting undressed at the arena and probably getting set to go down to Bakersfield. This opens the door for Adam Ernie, and now they can have an extra forward, and they have to obviously make the cap money work. So yeah, Adam Ernie was out there, by the way, too, Iwanyk, and he was skating with Sam Gagner, and there was a bit of a rotation. I think Janmark was kind of playing center with them a little bit. So those guys are still here. They're taking part in all the drills and the practices, and so, yeah, that's probably the move that happens. And, Niemelainen is a depth defenseman now. And he had a bit of a look-see, and we might and could see him at some point this season with the big club. But he's going to have to go down to Bakersfield and be one of their stalwarts and just be a reliable veteran until he gets the call. But that also opens the door for Mattias Ekholm coming back as well, right?
So what is the latest with the defense? Because is that where I think that's where we could start with practice then. You had some tweets from practice today, most notably on defense. How about filling in our listeners and viewers?
Okay. So I'll start with this. Jay Woodcroft, the first thing he said when he was asked about, hey, it looked like some familiarity there. Rashog asked about Bouchard being paired up with Ekholm, and Nurse was with Ceci, and Kulak was with Broberg, and again, Desharnais was working with Markus Niemelainen. That is a pretty clear indicator that it looks like Ekholm is ready to play tomorrow. And Woodcroft being good at, handling things, kind of brush it off. He goes, well, we didn't really do any defensive pairing work. We just kind of did some 2-on-2 things. And you don't, that's him just throwing up smoke and mirrors. But it looks like, watching and judging from practice today, Mattias Ekholm will be playing tomorrow. It looks like Mattias Ekholm will be paired up with Evan Bouchard. And it looks like, as of today, that the Bouchard-Nurse pairing lasted all of one game. I gave it a handful. Personally, I thought that it was going to be switched up relatively quickly. I did not foresee an 8-1 blowout loss with him and Nurse looking absolutely dreadful at times, among many others, I should note. No one really looked good in that game. And so, they're quick to pull the trigger and make it happen that if Ekholm's good to go, get him into that familiar spot with Bouchard and hopefully make sure Bouchard gets his butt in gear, and maybe Ceci and Nurse is stabilizing. And then Kulak, who's generally stable, did not have a great game either in Vancouver, could be paired up with Broberg. And I'm sure they'll mix in Desharnais as well.
Are you surprised? Like you said it, that you thought this would go a little further, Bouchard and Nurse. Are you surprised that this soon, after spending all of training camp with those two together and then doing one game? And yes, it was a bad game, 8-1 loss. They didn't look great. You've mentioned that. But are you surprised Jay Woodcroft immediately is throwing that out the window going into game 2 of the season after spending weeks trying this out?
I want to say yes, but Matthew, they were so bad, and you knew in the back of your mind, as much as you were optimistic about Nurse and Bouchard, you kind of knew, like, this is a bit of a ticking time bomb. Like, those two have their faults defensively, and together, if they don't both improve their defensive game, then they're in a world of trouble. And sure enough, it took all of one game in Vancouver to prove everybody right that had those doubts. So yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that they didn't stick with it, but at the same time, it's like, well, you know what has worked, and you have it sitting in your back pocket. Why they deviated and tried something new, that's a discussion and a decision for them. But maybe we see them revisit it if Nurse starts playing better and if Bouchard wakes up. But you know who it affects the most is Philip Broberg. And I'm not taking anything away from Brett Kulak, but Brett Kulak, as good as he is generally, as responsible as he is generally, he's not on the same level as Matthias Ekholm.
780-218-9999. Paris Jewelers inbox is how you can get in touch with us, or you can jump into the Nasty Chat on YouTube. It can't be just as simple. Me, you, and Gager and YouTube Trev had a little bit of this discussion during the game on Wednesday. It can't just be that Matthias Ekholm, that's the reason for Wednesday, can it? And if that is the answer, is that not a little concerning that everything is reliant on just this one defender? And look, Matthias Ekholm is a really good defenseman. I don't want to undersell him, but he's not Chris Pronger with the Oilers of 06, right? He's not at that top level. So is it concerning if it's the answer just as simple as Matthias Ekholm for the defensive problems as Wednesday?
Yeah, that would be concerning if it was as simple as that. Listen, his presence on the ice, in the room, on the bench is huge. And the ripple effect of what he brings permeates throughout the defense corps. But that team and that defense should still be able to handle the Vancouver Canucks. It has capable defensemen, adequate at best is the term I used a lot last year, to get wins and to play much better in their own zone than it did. Whether or not getting Ekholm is into the lineup to rattle their cages is the answer. I'm sure we'll find out tomorrow night if he is indeed good to go. But yeah, it's concerning, but I don't think it's all the Ekholm effect. I think that group should be able to beat the Vancouver Canucks among many other teams with that defense core. Is it a pretty defense core compared to when it has Ekholm? No, not necessarily, but it shouldn't be as putrid as it was the other night. And again, the forwards were bad. They didn't get any. I'm not blaming Jack Campbell. I'm not blaming Stuart Skinner, but they didn't get huge saves on grade A opportunities. They got some saves, but there was no support around their goalies either. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not putting it on the Ekholm effect solely because that was just a stinker of a game from the whole team.
VA in the Nasty Chat saying Ekholm is the Oilers' best defenseman. And I know that. He is.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it's just one of those, to everything you just laid out there, it's kind of worrisome that it's just this one defenseman could have that sizable of impact where if he's out for some sort of injury, just one game, they look completely lost. That they can't paper over the loss of Matthias Ekholm for a single game against an opponent that's not the defending champ Vegas Golden Knights, let's say.
A good team can get over the loss of its best defenseman for one game. It really can.
It should.
And I think they are capable of that. They didn't. I think they just came out and laid a stinker in their first game.
And that's why I also look at it and go, when a goaltending discussion comes up and who do you go with on Saturday and all that, I don't mind just the idea of reset this all. Push everything back a game and start from, this is game one of an 81-game season now for the Edmonton Oilers. And if your plan was Jack Campbell to start in net on Wednesday and Stuart Skinner tomorrow, based on how that game played out and how Stuart Skinner came in and he still let in 4 goals, I don't mind the idea of Jack Campbell gets to start tomorrow again as well. And Stuart Skinner gets Tuesday in Nashville. And just pushing everything back. What do you think?
Well, that's another thing we could talk about from practice today was it looked like Jack Campbell was working in the starter's net. Now, they were practicing at the DCA, Downtown Community Arena, the practice rink. There's a concert tonight at Rogers Place. But the net that usually is reserved for the guy who's starting the next game, Jack Campbell was in it and working in it most of the day. So I don't think we paid a lot of attention to that today. maybe some of it has to do with the deception we saw from Jay Woodcroft in Vancouver on Wednesday.
Well, Campbell was in
Again,
the visit or the other net, and Skinner was in the starter's net. So
that's right.
maybe Jay has a different idea of what the starter net is nowadays.
No, he's deliberately playing games.
Well,
That is Jay Woodcroft.
but that's what maybe he's now in his mind. It's whoever's in the starter's net is actually the backup for the game, and the other net's the
Right.
starter in his mind, and that's how we have to look at it moving forward.
No, well, perhaps, but it could be that once we start being like, oh, he's running decoy, then he flips it back. Like he's playing games. He likes to play the games. We know this. And then he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. We'll see what comes out of the gate come warm up. Like he loves. He's probably watching right now. Hello, Jay.
Hey, Jay.
He's all over it. All over it. The guy is an information fiend, and he wants to know what's being said about his team, and he wants to be on top of it. And I don't fault him for that, but he's playing the game, and to a certain extent, I respect it.
He could hear us crystal clear in the coach's office. And he has us off on the YouTube channel. We probably right. You could hear us probably right inside of Rogers Place too, right in the bowels.
Yes.
You could catch Edmonton Sports Talk. Static free since 23. Northside Sandwich Echo wouldn't have saved that game. The whole team was trash. One player was not going to save that game, no matter who it was. That's how bad the team was, and there's a lot of validity to that from Wednesday night, and that goes to just me going, throw that game away, and let's get to tomorrow's game and just reset it all and see what's going to happen. And do you buy the idea of we're going to find out fully what this Oilers team is made of? That championship teams, they can recover, they could get going. That we're at that point of the season for the Oilers this year, that tomorrow is one of those defining games to decide whether this is a championship team or not. Do you think we're there already with this team?
I don't. Maybe others do, but I don't. I mean, I think you have to win tomorrow. I think you have to send a message to the Canucks and the rest of the league that game one was an anomaly, but I don't think it defines the season. I mean, we watched the Boston Bruins basically win everything last year and set new records around the league, and they end up being a first-round ouster to the Florida Panthers. So I do think you need a better performance. The bar set so pathetically low from Wednesday that that's going to be achieved pretty quickly. Now, if they get absolutely butt kicked again, then I'm worried. But I don't think it defines the season. Then they really have to rattle some cages themselves. But I think tomorrow we're going to see a better Oilers team. I think they're going to be more composed. I think they're going to feed off the crowd. And I think they're probably going to win that game. And they're going to, like you said, reset. And then we'll focus on next week's games. And they'll be off and running. But I don't think it's a season-defining game, because there's stretches throughout the year where bigger, more impactful scenarios play out, whether it's a prolonged winning streak or prolonged losing streak. Those generally define a team in a season, not games 1 and 2 of the year.
Tom Gazzola, Matt Iwanyk with you here on the Oil Stream on Edmonton sportstalk.com, or those watching on our YouTube channel. Leon Draisaitl, you tweeted, had the quote of the day when talking about the loss in Vancouver. Quote, sometimes it's good to get smacked a little. Just overall, how were the conversations with the players? And speak to the quote from Leon and that scrum. I see Ryan Rishaug with a big smile on his face in your picture there.
Yeah. It was just funny, and people are gonna run with it. And I was like, I should put that out there. And it was in regard to getting a wake up call, being doused with cold water, whatever, get off your high horse, knocked off of it. And he said, yeah, it's good to get smacked. And you know what? Maybe they needed to go through that to realize that you can't just waltz into a season because everybody tells you how great you are. And, the last 2 years mean everything going into the season. The last 2 years are important lessons, and they should take from that. But just because you went to the third round, didn't win a game in that third round, and then the next year went to the second round and lost to the eventual Stanley Cup final champions, doesn't mean that you're all of a sudden just bequeath the Stanley Cup or a slot in the cup final. Like, it doesn't work that way. So I think that is what he was referencing. it came off as fun and playful, and he was in a good mood, all things considered. And that's why I said the mood at the rink was actually pretty good. So yeah, it was in regard to just getting that wake up call, and we used the term smacked, and we all had a good chuckle about it. And then Speck followed up asking about Draisaitl smacking other players from other teams with his stick, and he said that his discipline needs to be better, and he gets frustrated. He's human, and yes, those penalties in the third period were unnecessary and they were stupid. He recognized that, and that game, there was no chance in that game by the time he took those penalties. I'm not defending those penalties, Matty.
I
They're
will
bad penalties.
a
But
little bit.
yeah,
Well, to what you say, the game was over.
yeah,
They weren't making the comeback at that point. Look, you don't want that to be a habit. You don't want to do that. I know he had a penalty in preseason that people looked at, and it wasn't the favorable penalty for people. I can't remember which. Was that the Vancouver game too? I think that might have been a Vancouver game.
might have been. When they lost pretty good in Vancouver in the preseason as well.
And it's just, I get that when it's out of hand, there's a little bit of frustration. That stuff will come. And the way I look at that sometimes in those situations, those moments, is there's someone who cares. He's angry about what's happened in that game, that, he's taking it out a little bit. If that's a 1-goal, 2-goal hockey game at that point, then I'm going to have frustrations with that, because it's, well, why are you putting your team a man down when you're trying to come back and tie this game? But that's one where it was, we were all just hoping for runtime at that point. We just want this game over so we can get discussing it, because it was done at that. So it's a little bit of a defense for me of that. It just can't be a habit. You just can't be doing it in other moments. But for that situation, I'm not fully upset with it. But
I think it's a whatever. Like at that point in the game, it's whatever. But it's not
a story to me.
Good. No.
It's not something that I think needs to be fully discussed, because I understand that moment. How many of us have played any sort of sport, you're losing pretty bad, and you do something to just take your frustrations out?
Right. And I guess what we're countering is the people going, oh, look at that. And they pile on, and hey, he's taking stupid penalties on top of the team playing bad. Oh, they're pissed off. And if the situation was different and he took that penalty, like you alluded to, then you have reason to legitimately complain about Leon Draisaitl's lack of discipline. But at that point, I think nobody cared. They just want to get on the plane and go home.
And get to that autograph session.
Yeah. Apparently it went really well, too.
It looked like it. And it looked like a lot of people had a great time. And the lineups were long, as you would expect, especially for Connor and Leon. But that's an important date for Oiler fans and for the team to have for their fans. It just came at, unfortunately, a wrong time that none of us would have foresaw happening. Even if it was a loss in Vancouver, if you had to guess what they would have lost in Vancouver, I don't think anyone was predicting an 8-1 loss. So I actually like the quote that we got from Leon today, just because I don't disagree. I don't want to see that at the start of a season for a team, but you do every so often need to be smacked around a little bit. And it's like in sports. I remember my Ravens were on a stretch of 10 straight wins or something going into the last game of the season. And I was like, I kind of hope they lose this one so they get the taste of what losing's like, or they get that little taste of what it's like to trail and have to fight back before the playoffs, because I don't want them to experience that in the playoffs.
Right.
They ultimately won and then lost in the playoffs. But here it's sometimes important to be humbled and realize, okay, it's not just easy. It's not just everyone's claimed you're Stanley Cup champions this year and you're going to be crowned the Stanley Cup champions. You actually still have to go earn it. And to get that reminder, it's important. Again, a little weird that it's the second game of the season that you're talking about that, but to have those moments, they're important.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. A little egg on your face. And I like how you alluded to your Ravens.
Yes, my Ravens.
I'm only teasing. I'm teasing.
We've got a big game this weekend. We are out in London.
This weekend, Matthew?
We are out in London. We are taking on those Tennessee Titans. We will see how we perform on Sunday.
Good luck to you and your team.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And travel safe to London.
Coach Harbaugh's hopefully got our boys ready to go, and we'll see how things play out.
Man, you just filled out the bingo card.
When you have a team like the Ravens, you got to do all you can to support ourselves and each other.
Right.
And, we're
Naturally.
brothers in arms.
Absolutely.
And
You guys go to war together. I know.
100%. We had a big battle last week against the Steelers. We fell in that one. But now the next battle is up, and we're going to do what we can to get this victory.
It's a team effort because some guys have to be in the trenches and move the hoggies and create gaps for the running backs. And then some guys on the team need to eat the nachos and drink the beer in the stands. Everyone pulls together.
Or eat those nachos at Boston Pizza, where you can watch the Oilers at Boston Pizzas. $5 off medium pizzas, $1 off tankards of a Canadian or Coors Light, and $5.50 shots of Fireball, Jaeger, Burt Reynolds, Purple Rain, and Honey Jack. The Ice District location is going to be rocking tomorrow before the home opener of the Edmonton Oilers. You will be on tomorrow with the Oil Stream pregame show. Matt Cassian in for his first one of the regular season. He was off on Wednesday. So you, Cass, YouTube, Trev, I'll be by 6:30 tomorrow. We get going with the pregame show as well. We'll have the postgame show as we've got you covered for all 82 games live right here on Edmonton Sports Talk, as well as all the playoff games for the Oilers. Tom, that was a fun first one on Wednesday night, pre and post.
Yeah, the amount of people that watched it. I don't know what the listener numbers were like. I know
they were our best night.
That was our best night.
Night-wise, in the evening, since we've been on, that was by far our best night on the audio stream, and YouTube was just unreal.
I'll say this about the post-game, pre- and post-game as a whole, to be honest with you. It just, especially on Wednesday, the look of it on the YouTube channel, if you're a viewer of it, it just looks nice, and everything seemed to flow together, and that's testament to what you and YouTube Trev have put together, and Dusty with the graphics and stuff like that. Yeah, it looks really good. I thought it looked really nice as a package, aesthetically, and then the content was good. And we had a lot of people watching and listening, and we had a lot of input via the nasty chat as well as the text line. So more of the same. We're building this up, and we're going to keep getting bigger and better and better. And we just hope everybody comes on board with us. But first full pre and post game in the regular season was arrow up success. And you know what, win or lose, we have to talk about what happens, and we're always here for you. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow, and it should be a better night for Oilers fans. I say that thinking that this team will bounce back, and then we'll break it all down with Cass and YouTube, Trev, and yourself following the game.
I want to jump into the inbox, 780-218-9999. That's the Paris Jewelers inbox. Brandon from Windsor saying, boys, LFG, tomorrow is the reset game, party night, and the Tommy special, mix in a water. Gold medal mark, crystal clear like Crystal Pepsi. Love the show. Just to us mentioning that Jay Woodcroft, if he's listening to us, we know he's listening to crystal clear audio. And Library Pratt on the Nurse Bouchard breaking up. I'd like your thoughts on this, Tommy. He says, I think Nurse Bouchard was always a placeholder until Ekholm was good to go. Maybe they really did think it would be a short-term thing, and he didn't recover as quickly as expected. I doubt Nurse Bouchard was a long-term plan. Could you buy into that?
I understand the rationale of that thought. 100%. But the fact that they were so adamant sticking with those two from the start of training camp to game one would tell me otherwise, that they really wanted to make it work, and they really wanted to get Broberg with Ekholm so he can learn and be a sponge and start to develop into the NHL defenseman people had hoped he would become, and he aspired to be. And so that's why I think the plan was to test Nurse and Bouchard. I think that's why they had them together all of training camp and preseason. And the fact that it blew up so spectacularly on day one of the regular season for the Edmonton Oilers, I think that's what led them, obviously, to revert back to going with Old Faithful. And that's Ceci with Nurse, Bouchard with Ekholm, if he's good to go tomorrow, and then Broberg with Kulak and mix in Desharnais there. So if the only thing I would say is, if the plan all along was to have Nurse paired up with CC and Ekholm with Bouchard, I think we would have seen Nurse with CC in training camp, and we didn't.
When it comes to the opponent tomorrow, Vancouver, they got that win on Wednesday. Did that win change any of your opinion on what the Canucks might do this season? I know you're saying that you think the Oilers still going to go win tomorrow, and they should. But what did you envision that the Canucks were going to do this season, and did that change at all based on how they performed on Wednesday to you?
No, I think the Canucks, I still feel like they're going to be a team that kind of fights to be in the mix, but I still think that they're missing some pieces. Now, they worked really hard. They got the saves they needed from Thatcher Demko, who's a pretty damn good goalie, and he was playing sick, evidently. And then their forwards that are highly skilled and can hurt you when they get opportunities did exactly that. I think they completely outworked the Oilers. And I think that that's what the Canucks are going to have to do all season long to even be a contender for the postseason. Um, but it hasn't changed my opinion of the Vancouver Canucks. I think that they're starting to get themselves steered in the right direction. I don't think they're going to be as easy, quote unquote, game as they were last season when they were in disarray because of stuff behind the bench, Travis Green, and then or 2 years ago, and then Bruce Boudreau. That was the mess last year, and he was basically a lame duck coach, unfortunately for them. And then all of that, like that has an effect on the team. That rattles guys. And so when that mess got cleared up, and now they have Rick Tocchet in, who can start with a new season, implement his systems. He's got his new assistant coaches. Everybody's kind of on the same page. That makes them a better team automatically. And when they work hard, they can sting you like they stung the Oilers. But I still think overall, we're going to be watching the Canucks fighting for a wild card spot. If I'm wrong, I'll eat it. That's fine. But they're a respectable team. They're in the middle of the Pacific Division, and they might be a playoff team. They're going to have to duke it out for that spot, though.
What I find interesting with this team is, like, they get the new coach, it seems. They do well for, like, a season. You talk really highly about the Canucks, in general. And then the next year, they tail off a little bit. And how long could Rick Tocchet have success? Or is he going to be the different coach from the previous coaches? Because when Bruce Boudreau took over the Canucks team, they had a turnaround. Everyone was thinking really good going into the next season. And then we saw what happened last year. And, contracts were doled out that maybe shouldn't have been. And prior to that with Travis Green was having them play really good hockey for a period of time. And then it just stopped. It went away. They just weren't responding to him. And is that locker room going to be receptive to Rick Tocchet long term? Or is this going to be what we've seen from the Canucks over the last X number of years where they're going to respond for this season maybe? But when we get into next year, they're going to start tailing off, and we'll be talking about, well, how long does Rick Tocchet have left on the bench of the Vancouver Canucks?
I don't think they want to go through another head coach because, we watched the Oilers basically rinse and repeat for 5 or 6 years in a row with new coaches not lasting, and I don't think the Canucks want to get into that cycle. Ian McIntyre from Sportsnet, who was on with us for the pregame show on Wednesday night, does believe that Rick Tocchet is the right guy and that he is the guy that can motivate this group, and he has that ability to get as much as he can from his skilled players and create harmony within the group. So Imac has been around the Canucks for 32 years now, and he has a good grasp on what works with that team and what doesn't. So he has faith in him. I trust Imac, but you look at Rick Tocchet's track record, Maddie. He hasn't really had a lot of success as a head coach. He was amazing with Pittsburgh as an assistant coach, and people said he was ready for his next head coaching gig, and he got that in Arizona. Now, in Arizona, they gave him a terrible roster to work with, and that organization was an absolute total mess, and it could never figure itself out, as it continues to try to do, even all these years after Tocchet's been gone, the last 3 or 4, and Andre Tourigny has been in there. But Rick Tocchet's record as a head coach in the National Hockey League isn't particularly great. Could he turn it around? Yeah, maybe. If it is the right fit, like IMAC was saying, and he knows how to motivate those guys, and they buy in with him, and they're on board, and he doesn't wear them out. Yeah, he could be, but time will tell. We shall see. I go, well, Tocchet's never really won as a head coach. He had that 1 year in the bubble where they made it to the round of 16. Outside of that, it's never really translated with him at the helm of a team.
It reminds me a little of when Dave Haxtell got hired with Seattle. I went.
Yeah.
He's one of like where it can work. I didn't understand the hire because it's like this guy wasn't anything stellar. Like it wasn't when he was with Flyers, it wasn't these great records. There was a reason he was let go. It was very unsexy to me. And then after the first year, I was like, yeah, see, like it's not there. But last year we saw what the Seattle Kraken could do, and he helped. He's part of the reason that they were able to get into the playoffs for a year or two. So sometimes it just takes that right moment, the right situation where things could turn around. Or sometimes it's just you're not head coaches. And we talked about on the Hangout yesterday the name that was thrown out, Paul LaPolice. Sometimes you're just great in other roles as assistants or whatever it might be, but it's not done as a head coach, and we'll wait and see when it comes to Rick Tocchet in the Nasty Chat. This comment comes in from Northside Sandwich, and I've noticed it with post-game shows. It also happens with the Nielsen Show and a few others, but he says in the Nasty Chat, my favorite part about the post-game on YouTube is the conversation amongst the chat, not just waiting for you guys to answer our questions if we sent in a text. Then Zedmo all goes, yeah, I appreciate the live chats and Oilers post-game streams, appreciate the banter. And I do love watching when we're doing shows and you take a look at the Nasty Chat and there's some conversation going on between like 3-4 people in there that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, or they're just answering their own questions or something. That the Nasty Chat really, like the text line was amazing at 1260. It really brought a lot for the show, and the Paris Jewelers inbox still does. But the ability for our listeners to just interact with each other while we're doing the show is just another level of awesomeness that we have at Edmonton Sports Talk.
Yes. On the pre and post game show in the preseason, we did one full pre and post, and then we did a pre-game show for the game last Friday against Seattle. I caught myself reading conversations that Nasties were having in the chat amongst themselves as if they were part of what they wanted discussed on the show. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's for them in the Nasty Chat. And I think I'm getting better at recognizing which ones are for us and which ones are conversations amongst the Nasties in the chat. It's added this new layer that I had no idea would exist and would be created, and it's fantastic. So that the level of interaction that we have now discovered is pretty neat.
You would have struggled with me if we worked a little more on at 1260 on a regular show, because I always messed with JMO because I would get into conversations with texters because I had the time to respond to people, and some of them would get in conversations. And then JMO would read a text on air just randomly, like, but partway through the conversation I'm having with this individual, and I'd have to jump on her and be like, Dave, that has nothing to do with what we're saying right now. It's completely different. Just skip that. Move ahead. That's between me and this other person right now. So,
you know who did that, Maddie?
Who?
It probably still, I think he still does every time I look into the text line, is Lieutenant Eric. And I had to pick up on when he was just
when he has
having a
chats?
back and
Yes.
forth. Yeah.
Eric has great chats with listeners.
He goes all in. I love it.
When our inbox, we couldn't respond to people a couple of weeks ago. We could still get the text, but we couldn't respond. It bothered Eric big time because he really likes and takes his time to respond to people when he can. And, he was annoyed by that a little bit. So glad we got that fixed and we could actually talk to people. Except he needs the wrench on YouTube like we have.
Get him the wrench.
Well, I sent him the link yesterday, and I saw when he jumped into the chat today, he didn't have the wrench. So clearly he didn't accept it. So I'll have to get on him for that.
One click.
I don't know. You figured it out. I figured it out.
Yeah.
I'll have to talk to her. I haven't been able to talk to him much today. Matt Iwanyk, Tom Gazzola with you here on the Oil Stream. A busy day in Edmonton tomorrow as the Oilers are playing. We've already mentioned that clearly. The Elks do play tomorrow. And thanks to our wonderful partners at CoolBet, who, by the way, if you are going to be betting the Edmonton Oilers at all this season, bet them at coolbet.com, and that is where you can watch for the Edmonton Sports Talk exclusives, which have boosts included. That's only available at CoolBet, and we have an Edmonton Sports Talk parlay for tomorrow. I don't know if you heard this on the morning show as we built this earlier today. We've got the all Edmonton parlay for tomorrow.
Ooh.
So Oilers winning on the money line. The Edmonton Elks, we got it up to plus 3.5 against the Montreal Alouettes. Dusty was a little nervous about taking them on the money line. So we got the Elks at 3.5.
Okay.
and the University of Alberta Golden Bears defeating the Saskatchewan Huskies down at Footfield, money line straight up, plus 525 at Coolbet right now. You're not getting that anywhere else. Golden Bears, money line, Elks plus 3.5, Oilers, money line, plus 525. It's the Edmonton Sports Stock Parlay, only at Coolbet. We're just betting on Edmonton tomorrow, Tommy.
What say you, Mr. Lean?
Oh, I love it. My lean today was the Golden Bears for tomorrow.
Oh, I like that.
They're home underdogs to the Huskies. The one game I watched these two teams play against each other, the Bears dominated. There was maybe 3 or 4 plays that allowed the Huskies to make that a close game. It was a couple of picks by the Bears quarterback. Outside of that, it was domination. They are now coming home, and it pains me that the Elks are playing at 2 o'clock. It pains me because I want to do both, but it's the final home game of the season for the Elks, so I'll be there at Commonwealth. Are you going to go down to Commonwealth tomorrow?
Yep. So Hello Hockey, like you mentioned before, 10 to noon. By the way, sounds like Georges Larocque will join us. Dan Lekelt. We might have Carly Johnston, who covers the Detroit Red Wings, just to go out east and touch base with Carly. She's great. And then probably try to sneak in Dave Pagnotta. So it's a loaded show again. And then I'll whip home, like have a quick bite to eat for lunch, get down to Commonwealth, watch the game.
Why would you have a bite at home?
Wait, hang on. I'm going to get home, change. I'm going to whip down to the tailgate, say hi to everybody at the Spirit tailgate. We go. Have an Italian sausage on a panino bun.
There's your food.
And yeah, exactly. And then I'll be ready to go. I'll watch the game, and then I'll get back to, I think I'm doing the show here, right? The pregame show here.
Yeah, you're going to the game.
Yeah, I'm just clarifying. I'll be doing it here from the satellite studios at my place, and then I'll go to the game, and then we'll do the postgame. It's going to be a packed day. It really will be, and it's going to be a great sports day in Edmonton. We get 1 or 2 of these around this time of year every year. And if you're a super hungry sports fan in Edmonton, I think it's a glorious day.
You also make sure you get Gager to get you a hot dog or a hamburger too.
Yes,
so there's where your food. I'm thinking about the food plan for tomorrow, and there's it all figured out.
That's the pregame meal, pre-show.
There you go. I wish that the teams would all come together and we have legit, like maybe once or twice a year, full sports days in Edmonton. Like it sucked before FC Edmonton left because we couldn't get it done. But me and Eric wanted like a day where, FC Edmonton played at Clark, and then how do we have it figured out? Yeah, you go to Expo Center, watch the Stingers play, let's say a noon game. Head to Clark for like a 3 o'clock FC Edmonton game, and then head to the River Valley for a Riverhawks game. And do a sports day like that in the summer. And then, there has been the Elks Oilers, and I think there are people. I think Atif in the Nasty Chat earlier today said he's going to do the doubleheader, Elks Oilers. Wheels. We need Eric to come in and do the impression, but like to add the third, like to find a way to do like a 3 or something, and that's ideal. And I wished that everyone would be able to come together and just plan it a little better. Like tomorrow, I don't think this could be done for football. Just I don't know if the bodies could do it, but if one of those football games could have been at noon, let's say Bears Huskies was at noon, Elks at 3:30, maybe 4, and then Oilers at 8. That'd be a really nice day.
Good day. You'd have to mix in a few waters, but that would be a great sports day.
I did not mix enough waters the one time me, Lucas, and Ryan did Riverhawks FC.
You guys were on fire that day. I met up with you.
That was
and wow.
They bailed earlier than me.
It was impressive.
I don't remember how I got home that day. Like I know I walked home, but yeah, I don't remember that walk. That was a great night. I really enjoyed it.
You guys had a lot of fun.
This is the Oil Stream, Matt Iwanyk, Tom Gazzola with you here. Anything else that we're missing from practice earlier today that we need to get to, or have we basically covered it all?
Dylan Holloway was skating on his line. Yeah. That's a good thing,
Woodcroft said yesterday that they expected him to play tomorrow.
Yeah, so that's a good thing. McLeod continues to work his way back in, find his rhythm. That's important. No changes with the lines, it didn't look like.
Except defensively.
except for defensively. Yeah, the pairings were, different, but the lines looked the same. And again, just Jack Campbell was working in the starters net. But if you're going to do a reset, I would let him have another go at it. And at this point, it's like just you need both guys going. Let them play, let them find a rhythm. They both played in that last game. They both gave up 4 goals on 16 shots. So they're still basically they're at equal footing, and it's not like Campbell has had an advantage playing more or vice versa with Skinner. So if they go back to Campbell tomorrow, I'd be like, yeah, okay. He probably wants a shot at making up for what happened Wednesday too, even though I'm not putting those goals on him. Do the reset, play pissed off, embrace the smacking, like Draisaitl alluded to, and go and get a win and send everybody home happy on a Saturday night in good old our town.
When you look at the full schedule for the rest of October, Canucks tomorrow, Nashville Tuesday, Philly Thursday, Winnipeg Saturday. Following week, it's Tuesday, Thursday with Minnesota, the Rangers. And then they play on the Sunday. That's the Heritage Classic, and that's 5 o'clock on the Sunday. A lot of days off. It's either they get a day off between games or there's the 2 days off. Is this just, if you're Jay Woodcroft, would you just handle goaltendings? One gets the first game, one gets the next game, and do that for the month and then see where you're at? Or is there a point in this month you think that maybe you got to settle in and maybe there's more of a starter? Or how do you think the Jay might or should handle goaltending this month?
Interesting. I want to say 1-1, but no, you want to build a bit of a rhythm. You want guys to kind of get into a groove, and they need to play more than one game and then not have it lingering in the back of their mind that they're not playing the next one because you guys are just splitting duties. So say Campbell goes tomorrow, then you get Stuart Skinner in on Tuesday against the Preds.
Then it's Thursday, Saturday. So days off, only a day off between those 2 games.
Yeah, but I think you kind of gauge what kind of game you got from Skinner on Saturday. You gauge what kind of game you got from Campbell on Saturday, Skinner on Tuesday, and then whichever one you feel comfortable with or think gives you the edge, go with him on Thursday and maybe ride him through that game against Winnipeg, then go to the next guy against Minnesota. I don't know. I wouldn't even mind 2-2s, but that was a Dave Tippett thing. The 2-2s, remember that?
Yeah.
And he kind of deviated.
The thing about the 2-2s is you're resting like a goalie would rest for almost a full week.
Yeah.
And that seems like a lot if you still haven't decided who your starter is, no? Because like if you play, let's say Jack Campbell on Saturday and he got Tuesday, let's say we did the 2-2 starting on Saturday, he gets Saturday and Tuesday, and the next game is Tuesday. So it's like a full week off. And then Stuart Skinner would be off for like a week and a day or something. It's just such an open schedule. Like it's not congested in anything, which is I think good to start the year, but it also makes it interesting how they can handle goaltending here.
Well, their first back-to-back isn't until like the end of December, right? The New Jersey, New York games right before the Christmas break.
Well, for
every other, it's a while. Like it's a very comfortable schedule.
No kidding. I'm just pulling this up. Yeah, 21st, 22nd. And the thing about that is that's right before your Christmas break anyways.
I know.
So you just got that one game, and then you're gone, and you go enjoy your Christmas for a few, and then you head out to California to come back.
What if I suggested this?
Okay.
You watch what Campbell does if he starts tomorrow. Gauge him in that game. You go to Skinner against the Preds. Gauge him in that game. And then whoever you feel comfortable with after those 2 games, you give them Philly and you give them Winnipeg. Because I'm looking at that Winnipeg game next Saturday, and I'm like, that's the dangerous game. That's a good Winnipeg team over there, regalvanized. They've done a reset. They've got some key pieces that they've locked up. I think that's a team that wants to prove last year was an anomaly. So I would want my best guy who's playing his best going against Winnipeg. And I think these next 3 sets that up for you.
How important is this?
Who's in a better group?
How important is it who's the starting goalie for the Heritage Classic in terms of them? Not in terms of winning the game, but like I just think of the Vancouver situation. Roberto Luongo doesn't get the start. You were there, I think, for that one.
I was.
Ultimately, he gets traded. It doesn't play a game with the Canucks again. I'm assuming some goalies want to play in this game. They want that opportunity to play Heritage Classic. How much is like even this mapping out? Maybe you know who's going to be starting on the 29th, and you got to play around that, or is it Jay Woodcroft's got to go to that game and do what's best for the team just overall at that given moment?
I think for Stuart Skinner, playing in the Heritage Classic would be a big motivator. I really do. Just being from here and this being the 20th anniversary of the original, I don't think Jack Campbell has that level of deep passion to play at Commonwealth Stadium. I think he would want to play in that game. It's always special, the outdoor games, but I think for Skinner probably means a little bit more to him. So I think he's going to do everything he can to play in that game. And if that lights a fire under his butt and he's lights out in every start he gets up until the 29th, I could see that kind of playing into effect.
If you're looking for a place to watch the game tomorrow, by the way, One Putt Virtual Golf. It's the brand new facility. They have 6 TrackMan bays. It's the same technology as the PGA. That's a big deal, TrackMan. Like when you're watching CBS or NBC and you're watching like the top tracer technology, like a lot of what those pros and a lot of what's happening is using the TrackMan technology. So if you're looking for a bay that is top notch for golf simulators, you want to hit a TrackMan bay, and that's what happens at One Putt Virtual. It's a spot for group events, birthdays, Christmas parties. It's almost time for Christmas parties, but also a great place to catch Oiler games. They're at 6816 178th Ave, so 68th Street, 178th Ave here in Edmonton. It's also kid-friendly with free arcade, snacks, and a large selection of those adult bevies. I'm going to be very sad when we head there as a group of Edmonton Sports Talk because I won't be able to swing my clubs. And I'll have to watch you guys having all the fun, and I'll just feel miserable about the fact that I can't use my clubs with TrackMan technology, but then I'll feel okay when I go to the free arcades. Kids, I'll be playing in that area, and people are going to think I'm weird because I'm playing with the arcade games. I love arcade games.
Well, your shoulder's all banged up, right?
Yes.
Like that's a legitimate thing. It's the beauty of a one putt is that you don't have to play the golf. It's the most fun part about it, but there's other things to do, and we'll still have a good time. You can watch and sit, and you can mock us for how poorly we play in whatever game and tournament we put together amongst ourselves. And you know what? I think you'll be okay. And the most important thing, Matthew, will be that you get to play when the summer's back and the sun's out.
No, it might not be next year.
Most in part.
It still might not be next year.
Well,
I might have to wait
then.
till.
Wow.
If anything, it's going to be next winter. I'll be at One Putt, being able to get some practice
That
swings.
sucks. Well, that sucks.
Yeah.
Now I'm bummed out for you. I really am.
Although here, I don't know. Like it looks like what they're trying to do at One Putt a little bit too, is kind of bring the virtual golf world together. You know, do all that, but with like that Top Golf feel, where it has a little better atmosphere as opposed to just go into this one bay, close the door, and you're by yourself type thing. Like there's a little better of an atmosphere involved with it, and that just makes it even better. I love that golf is becoming a 365 thing here in Edmonton.
It's awesome. And I love how like the stuffiness of golf, which it has traditionally been, is starting to ease up too.
Well, and
yeah, I can't wait.
Here's the one thing, because you're from here like I am. How ahead of its time was the Golf Dome?
Way ahead of its time. It had mini putt. You could go and work on your game. You could swig a beer. Like,
how is that not still a thing? You know, like the fact that closed down, it was way ahead of its time.
It lasted for quite a while, and then I know it became like a roller hockey / ball hockey facility. Yep. It probably cost $1 million to heat that thing. It was literally just a bubble, like a heavy duty plastic bubble
right off Gateway.
It was neat, but I think it had its time. It ran its course.
But I think if there was a golf dome nowadays, people would love to go to a driving range.
It deflated a couple of times, right? Like some nasty storms, some wear and tear got in there. Yeah, I think it deflated once or twice, if I remember correctly. I'm not gonna lie to you. As you were rattling off the one putt
Yep.
stuff, I kept looking at the Oilers' schedule. And I'm like, I don't even know how the hell I would roll out the goalies in this.
I looked at after the first back-to-back in December, their next back-to-back, they've got 2 of them in February.
Yeah,
And then there's a couple, I think, in March, but they don't have a lot of back-to-backs for a really long time. It's really spaced out games. It's going to come down to, is there going to be a goalie that's going to take the reins, and you have to go with him. Otherwise, there's going to be a big split between these two guys for a while, which isn't a terrible problem.
yeah, but I mean, I want to be fair to both guys if I was the coach, but at some point you got to give one guy not the lion's share, but the majority by a small margin of the starts if he's playing better.
That will wrap up today's episode of the Oil Stream. As Tommy has mentioned, Hello Hockey coming up tomorrow, 10 o'clock, right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Oil Stream pregame show 6:30. It's another busy day here at Edmonton Sports Talk. Another busy week here at Edmonton Sports Talk. Next week, a couple of announcements. Hopefully, Monday we have an announcement to unveil, which we're excited about. There might be another one coming that got an email on it today. Hopefully, we can get that going next week, if not the week after. So, lots still coming from here at Edmonton Sports Talk. But Tommy, as is tradition on the Oil Stream, take it away.
Like, share, subscribe. Thank you, Nasties, for chatting with us for the Oil Stream today. Be sure to join us tomorrow. Hello Hockey, 10 to noon, and then we'll have the Oilers pre and post game starting at 6:30. Myself, Matty Cassian, making his return after being out of town for a bit. Hit that thumbs up button. We're playing that algorithm game. Subscribe if you haven't. Have a great weekend, everyone.